Sure.
Because when you forward them, there's no subject, it just says forward. So then I have to dig through all these to find, like the one you sent me the other day is like, it says, I represent science. So automatically I know when I bring that up, I know exactly what it is. And you sent me one that, and you said, what am I doing here? Well, see,
The
that way I
following
know.
is an America Matters media
it.
production.
Yeah.
The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the station or its advertisers, although we think they should. But that's the opinion of America Matters Media.
Hey, welcome back. It's Talking Truth to Power, Nevada, and the world's Freedom Talk Radio. I'm your host, Brendan Trainor. Along with me is Leland Faegre, and our co-host, and on behind the board, doing all our fabulous sound effects, is Shannon Lawson.
Morning.
Good morning. And it's Omicron still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moronic.
Moronic. Yeah. Well, and
You
again,
move a few letters around and it's
Right.
moronic.
right. And, last week I talked about a doctor that I've been listening to on YouTube a lot, and I think I gave him an Irish name. He's really got a Scotch name.
Yeah, you did mention him. You thought
Yeah.
he was from South Africa, I think?
He's getting the reports from South Africa.
Uh-huh.
His name is Dr. John Campbell. He's got a bit of a Brit accent. I don't know, maybe from up near the Scotch border or something, but he posts videos almost daily with documentation. So he goes over the documentation with a pen, underlining and making notes there. So he's very, very good if you want to get the latest. Because
Sullivan, wasn't it?
I think I said Sullivan, but his name is Campbell.
Oh, okay.
Dr. John Campbell, like the soup.
Uh-huh.
And he's really good because the news from South Africa and from the rest of the world, I mean, he's not just South Africa, but the virus is, the Omicron virus is spreading rapidly. It's heavily found already in South African sewage. It does infect those with natural immunity from COVID, the basic COVID and the Delta. However, so natural immunity, if this holds up, natural immunity may not protect you, unfortunately, Leland, from Omicron, but
the effects are very mild.
But the effects are very mild. That's the offset. And Dr. Campbell says it's spreading so rapidly that he believes everybody will be exposed to it by the end of January.
Just like the last variant, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's getting out there. I think it's even faster. I think because it's weaker, it's also faster. And so it's really getting out there. Mm-hmm. But like you said, it's very, very mild so far. When we talked about how, in many cases, studies have shown that almost half of the patients admitted to veterans hospitals in America that were tested and found positive for COVID, they were not admitted for COVID symptoms. So they had,
Right.
they had,
The CDC is not quick to
point
disseminate
that
that.
No. So, and in South Africa, so far, it's not just 45%, it's like 75% of those admitted to the hospitals there that then tested positive were admitted for other reasons. It does infect some children and younger adults, but again, it's usually very, very mild. The last time, I think it's more or less just extreme fatigue for a few days and maybe headaches.
Uh-huh.
And that's about the extent of most of the cases.
Mine was, when I went through it, it was fatigue.
Yeah, you had fatigue too. Well, I'm tired all the time, so I never know.
Well, but I think more than usual.
Yes.
And it was serious fatigue. I mean, I have a spiral staircase, and I
Right.
looked at that thing every time I had to go up or down, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was extreme fatigue.
Extreme fatigue
is the way he put it.
That's all I really had.
Yep. And all right, so in other words, he's hopeful that this could be the end of the pandemic.
Right.
and we'll go into the endemic stage, and COVID will just be there like the other flus, and we'll get it every so often. We'll catch it.
But we're not certain that gain of function research has discontinued.
No,
That's the problem.
So
Because if this bioweapon didn't work, let's work on another one.
Yeah, that's.
That's
If
what
at first you don't succeed.
We are dealing with Frankenstein.
I know. I know. Build Back Better sounds very nice, but in Europe, a lot of these fanatics in Europe and Australia are calling it the new normal, or the new world order is what the Australians started calling it.
Well, it's a perfect tool if you're trying to build a totalitarian state.
Sure.
Vaccine passports and the rest.
Uh-huh.
It's a frightening thought that it's already happening in some parts of the world.
Exactly.
Australia has their own camps now.
Yeah, but if you are unvaccinated, you can be put in a camp in the territories, way up where the Aborigines live.
Right. Where the prisoners used to be sent.
Right. And it's pretty draconian. I mean, they're not torturing people, but you're being restricted to your room most of the time, and they tell you when you can go or not. You're subjected to testing and all this. It's no fun. I don't know whether they're going to look at this like their version of the Japanese internment in World War II, but the time this is over, if we ever recover from this.
I think there's very similar parts to this. Mm-hmm.
And then other countries are locking up the unvaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
Greece is fining senior citizens who are not vaccinated.
Those mean old senior citizens.
I know. I really can't believe it. Once again, this whole thing would have been much, much better if the government never got involved in it at all.
Like everything.
Yeah, like everything. Everything the government touches turns to lead.
Right.
But they're really criticizing science.
Yeah.
Because I represent science.
Uh-huh. We were trying to figure out what the hell you were representing.
Yeah, so...
he's the face of Frankenstein.
if you attack Fauci now, you're an anti-Semite.
Yeah.
Don't be anti-Semitic, leave him alone.
Well, it'll probably result in a huge swell of gun ownership is what's going to happen here, which is,
that's going to happen.
Not a bad thing.
No.
People are seeing this for what it is, the gradual accretion of authoritarianism. And, it looks like, for all the intents and purposes, it's right around the corner.
Man, who knows their schedule?
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
To join the conversation, call 844-790-TALK. That's 844-790-8255. Now, back to the show.
Hey, welcome back to Talking Truth to Power. And what do you think about all these looters breaking into stores and stealing
just when you
things?
thought it couldn't get any worse, the Fox Christmas tree was set alight.
Oh, it was?
This morning. You didn't see that?
No.
Yeah, overnight.
Oh.
Some guy showed up with a newspaper and lit it up. And the tree went with it.
Well, maybe he was Jewish, because we're going to talk about that in Jews in the News in the last segment.
Well, my thought was, why did it take so long? and why didn't they have security out there?
Yeah.
Prepared for such an eventuality, because I could have told them.
Mm-hmm.
So vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, AOC said once again that the looters are hungry and they must be after bread. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they must have thought that Louis Vuitton was a baguette store.
Well, what they do is they take those leather bags home and then they boil them and eat them. That's what they do. That's what they do.
Yeah, they just want bread. Or maybe they just want the Benjamins. That's more like it. And then we have we have the one trial of Justice Smollett still going on, and then we have Alec Baldwin digging the hole around him deeper. He did an interview with Stepan.
Was it him or Chris Cuomo that dug him deeper? I don't know.
Don Lemon.
Or Lemon, I mean.
Yeah, Don Lemon.
CNN again.
Don Lemon was
CNN Tonight, brought to you by Pfizer.
Exactly.
Exactly. So Alec Baldwin's excuse, I didn't pull the trigger, that's right up there with Smollett's, I paid them for training, or Bill Clinton's, I did not have sex with that woman.
So he let the hammer go instead of pulling the trigger? Is that the deal?
You'd have to pull the trigger, though, to let the hammer go. I mean, you could pull back the hammer. It's my understanding, I don't own a single shot. I don't know if I ever did, but you pull back the hammer. If you're holding in the trigger, you can pull back the hammer, and then if you let go, it'll spring forward.
Right.
I believe that's correct. But otherwise, you have to pull the trigger.
Well,
if you cock the hammer.
He's
you have
clearly
to pull
setting
the
up his own trial because or all of the litigation that happens after. That's what's.
Well, maybe the civil litigation,
Yeah.
but the Attorney General in Santa Fe said it would probably take till the spring to complete the investigation. But I've heard some pretty good law. Yeah,
It's a very complicated case. A handful of live rounds on a television, on a movie set. I mean,
Yes.
how complicated could it be?
But the thing is, no matter how sloppy, and the thing was sloppy from the beginning. I mean, the production was poorly run from the outset. People were walking off the set. The armorer was her first 24-year-old armorer. Was only her second job, and she didn't do that well in her first job. And then she didn't hand him the gun. She's supposed to hand him the gun. An assistant director picked the gun up off a cart and gave it to him and said, "Cold gun." But when push comes to shove, the actor and George Clooney came out and said this, so he stabbed Baldwin in the back.
It happened.
He said, when you give the actor the gun, he is supposed to check it himself and show it to the person he's going to point it at. So he didn't. Baldwin. There's no indication that Baldwin did any of that.
He's an insufferable narcissist. I mean, he can do whatever he wants.
Exactly.
That's what he.
That's what
reveals.
he's counting on. He's counting on that they won't prosecute him.
Absolutely.
And it may not be. It could either be reckless manslaughter, or it could be just negligent manslaughter. I'm not sure what the sentencing is in
Santa Fe.
Yeah, but he should be charged with something.
Yeah.
Besides the civil suit that he's undoubtedly.
Oh,
going
I
to
think
have
he's
to
going to be
get.
charged with something.
Yeah.
The slap on the wrist to him.
Yeah. And Jesse made a complete fool of himself on the witness stand.
Oh my God.
And you should, if we won't see the video, but if you could contrast the way he performed when he testified in his own trial with the way Kyle Rittenhouse testified in his trial, I mean, it was night and day.
Well, one comes from a position of truth.
Of truth, exactly.
And what the purpose of the entire encounter was, whereas this guy, he's contrived the entire event.
Once you start lying, you create a web and you're going to get
He just
caught
had
in
to
it.
get to that subway at 2 a.m. in sub-freezing temperatures.
Well, actually, he went for eggs.
I
See, one of the Nigerian bodybuilders texted him. It could probably the one he was having sex with, and texted him and said that in order to do your dietary regimen, we advise you need eggs. And so he went out to get eggs.
Subway?
He went out to get eggs, but the dairy store was closed.
At 2 a.m?
Yeah, at 2 a.m. He couldn't find any eggs.
I think it was minus 25.
He couldn't knock on the door next to him and ask if they had a couple of eggs they could loan him.
Right. Eggs are so hard to find at 2 a.m.
What am I doing here?
Yeah.
Plus, they have that video of him going to his with the two brothers, and staging the event the day before.
Yeah, they staged the crime.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, how could that benefit you if you were a legitimate defense client?
Right.
How would
exactly.
how would you protect him from that? He's dug his own grave,
Yeah, I sure he did.
and he deserves to have whatever's going to happen. I mean, if he were to show up here, I'd call security. I'd want him out of here.
Yeah. And there's Kamala, boy, everybody's deserting her ship. I mean, they can't wait to get out of there.
I don't want to be a part of that sinking ship entertainment.
No.
That was the company that created the video for her, remember?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Canadian company, Sinking
Yeah.
Ship Entertainment.
Oh, yeah. You mean the space video?
No, she, I don't know, she created a video in defense or about the time that she was in the crosshairs of the border neglect, you know. And the company they hired was out of Canada, and the name of the company is Sinking Ship Entertainment.
You know the thing.
Yeah, you can't make that up. Wouldn't you stay away from that if you found out the name of the company was Sinking Ship Entertainment, just for the sake of anything that might happen? I mean, all they had to do was call me.
Yes. Well, we have a couple of minutes, but you know, all of this woke madness is driving the president of France and crazy.
Yeah, isn't that an interesting development, though?
Yeah. Yes, and he is very upset because I don't know if anybody in the audience has studied French, but every French word is gender specific. Every noun has either a pronoun that means it's a male or a pronoun that means it's a female. There are no neutral nouns in France. And then so the verbs are affecting everything else. And now the Académie Linguiste came out and said that, well, no, we have to put, instead of just he, him, and she, her, we have to put in they, them, or, you know, we have to find a way to do that. So they invented a new word. Sort of like combining the male and the female pronouns. Le and la, they come up with li. But then what are the French going to do? They'd have to change their whole language. Every single word would have to be different.
Now, which chapter of 1984 is this found in? Because I want to refresh.
Trans girl is a girl.
Sarah.
And even the Democrats are retiring in droves. They don't want anything to do with this now.
No.
They're chewing on each other,
Uh-huh.
and you would have expected that. You know, at some point. I mean, Manchin, he's not going for this.
No.
Now the question is, when are you going to leave the party?
Uh-huh.
So,
Yes, exactly.
you know,
I
that's-
mean, there's no doubt that people are talking to him about it. And West Virginia is purple, but it's you know, it's leaning more and more to the right over the years.
You know, Biden's polling could be a drag on Democrats.
Who said that?
It's just an observation I've noticed.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe Jack Tapper came out and said it or something.
He's the last they've got there now, isn't it?
Yeah, he's the
Jake Tapper's, that's all
Jake
they have.
Tapper is all they got. Unless I think Brian Stelter wants an evening slot.
But I think they've realized that they have to reconstruct that network now. That's what this is.
Yeah.
There's more to this, and I think Lemon will go. He's got some of his own personal problems, apparently.
Yeah, huh? Hey, somebody is suing him.
Yeah.
A white straight male came up to him in a bar.
Lemon had too much to drink.
Yeah.
And approaches someone he shouldn't have approached. Is what
Yeah,
happened.
he tried to say hello to him and he ignored him. And then later, Lemon walked up to him.
CNN will look after me.
This is CNN.
He put his hand in his crotch and pulled it out and put it in the guy's face and rubbed it in his mustache or something. So the guy is suing him.
Yeah. And he deserves to be sued.
Yes. And now he could also be in trouble because he was advising Justice Smollett.
Yep.
Very good advice he gave him, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure he did, yeah.
How can I help my buddy?
Do you hear that Johnson & Johnson is going to be splitting up into two companies?
Johnson.
One company is going to be called Johnson, and the other company will become Johnson.
You mean there'll be two Johnsons?
I'm telling you, the landscape is just never ending. It's a good thing we're able to put this stuff together for our listening audience, isn't it?
Barbecue, the Butcher's Kitchen, would like to thank every customer for your loyalty and continued support through these challenging times. Call for takeout and delivery of rib tips, brisket, ahi, tuna, roasted veggies, and much more. Barbecue's open from 11 to 7, Monday through Saturday, and delivers hot food safe and healthy. Call 499-5855 for details. 499-5855 Barbecue, as featured on diners, drive-ins, and dives. Get real. Get into Barbecue Reno.
This overload.
Shannon Lawson here. Join us for the Nevada Radio Roundup, Fridays at 2 p.m. A good news variety show all about the local scene. The Nevada Roundup, Friday at 2.
Want to expand your advertising dollar? Sponsor this or any America Matters program by calling 775-827-8900, extension 2. Now, back to the show.
Hey, welcome back to Talking Truth to Power. And it's time to talk a little bit more foreign policy. And just like domestic policy, Biden's foreign policy is an amateur production. It's not going anywhere except in the favor of those people whom the political parties like to call our enemies, but we here at Talking Truth to Power like to say, now, wait a minute, who's the enemy here? So
it's not always easy to tell the way they discuss it, and the narration doesn't help.
So the latest in the Ukraine saga, which started several months ago, is that Putin and Biden had a 2-hour Zoom call together yesterday, and
2 hours and 1 minute.
2 hours and 1 minute, okay. And what happened is that Russia basically got its way, and you're not going to hear that. Well, you might hear it from the opposition, because the Republicans are going to be calling him weak, and the Democrats are going to be are also going to be upset. But the fact is that
he looked him in the eye.
Yeah, he did.
Biden looked Putin in the eye.
They were playing that whole thing. They were playing that whole thing about Putin doesn't have a soul and Putin is a killer. But and so they're going to try and hide the fact that Biden had to back down, but he did. What's going on is that there was Victoria Nuland. Remember, went to Moscow a few weeks ago, and she didn't go over very well. She bombed, and so she left without getting what she wanted. And then Biden sent Burns, the CIA director, to Moscow to try and pave it over a little bit. But Russia told him that in no way are they going to allow the Ukraine to become a member of NATO. And if you think that that's not right and Ukraine should do whatever it wants to do, well, just think about Cuba.
That's a good comparison.
In 1962, Russia, Cuba was declared itself communist, and they were going to align with Russia, and Russia was going to put missiles in Cuba. And John F. Kennedy stood up and said, no, you're not. And we were on the brink of a world war.
But we acquiesced from the missile withdrawal in Turkey.
Yes, exactly. But people don't like to talk about that part.
Nor does it become part of the discussion if it ever does come up.
Yes, exactly. So it wasn't just that we unilaterally forced Khrushchev down, but we made concessions, too.
It's the way the story is told makes a whole hell of a bit of a difference.
Yes, it does.
Biden says he's trying to work out an accommodation for Putin.
Right.
I think it's pretty clear that that's what it is.
Exactly. And Putin laid down some red lines. NATO is not to be put into the countries that were formerly part of the Soviet Union, not the Warsaw Pact, not those countries, although they really don't need to be there either, but the countries that are formerly the part of the Soviet Union, namely Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia, and Belarus, they're off limits to NATO. And, they've been trying to push the envelope there.
Well, not just them, but, the entire Warsaw Pact, there was an implicit understanding after the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Yes.
That NATO wouldn't touch them.
And,
it wasn't necessary, and it still isn't necessary.
It's more, you can find diplomatic cables in which this was acknowledged, but it was never put into a treaty. It was never put into writing. But basically Gorbachev said, we're going to withdraw from Germany, and we're going to withdraw from Poland, Czechoslovakia, and the other Hungary, and the other countries that we were in. And in return, James Baker and the other diplomats said that NATO would not expand, past where it was, Germany. And instead, under Clinton especially, NATO did expand.
Where's Dwight David Eisenhower when you need him?
Yes, exactly.
Are we the baddies?
Yeah, we are, Conley, because, we betrayed the spirit of the end of the Soviet Union. We couldn't leave it alone. And Moscow, the capital of Russia, is only 500 miles from these countries. They wouldn't be able, even with all the missile defense systems that they have erected, they'd be hard-pressed to defend Moscow against a missile attack. So they're not going to allow it. And but not only that, but Putin wants a new security superstructure for Europe. He wants a treaty, basically, a grand bargain.
Which helps facilitate their grand design of entanglement and their new world order. That's what it is. That's all it is. It's just another piece of entanglement.
No, it's to keep Europe away from Russia.
Well, that's what they say. It's ostensible. It's not legitimate.
Well, it's not gonna be. It's just gonna be a non-aggression pact, basically.
Yeah.
And, they're worth. I don't know the
what are they
paper
worth?
that they're written on. But it will last for a few decades, and you and I won't have to worry about it.
Well, I don't think along those lines, but
I mean, that's all you can get. I mean, politics is not, you can only draw so many red lines and create so many treaties. Look at all the treaties we broke with the Indians. I mean, treaties are, there, and the agreement, the nuclear agreement, the JCPOA with Iran, although it was not formally a treaty, it was, a internationally recognized agreement, and they're only worth the good intentions of the people behind them. So things could change, but the fact is that we're now importing oil from Russia again because of Biden's policies, domestic policies.
Yep.
And you know what? We're probably going to need to import oil from Iran as well.
Yeah.
And Europe wants Iranian oil. And Iran is now allied with Russia and China.
Now, did Nord Stream 2 come up in those 2 hours and 1 minute conversation?
There's some kind of there's another delay, and I heard it was just because some of the companies involved went through changed their names or something. And it's just paperwork, but I'm not sure. It could be, I mean,
are we going to get a transcript, and can we trust the transcript?
Yeah,
if we get one.
Well, they give readouts.
Yeah, I know.
And you can read the readouts from the Russian. The Russians are pretty good about it.
Actually, I think that's probably the source I would prefer to read.
Yeah, they are pretty good about it. And you can read them on the Russian Foreign Ministry, the English version, their webpage, or the Kremlin's webpage, too, if it only involves Putin.
Well, I wonder if Putin brought up Eisenhower's quote about NATO. Remember in 1951?
Yeah, the one about...
he said in 10 years, if all American troops stationed in Europe for national defense purposes have not been returned to the United States, then this whole project will have failed.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So.
Well, the purpose of NATO, I think I've said it before, the whole purpose of NATO was to keep, as far as Europe goes, was to keep America in, Russia out, and Germany down.
It was an entangling alliance.
Yeah, exactly.
Something the founding fathers warned us not to do.
And a lot of this is just, when Victoria Nuland was testifying before Congress, and she is not a good-looking woman. I'm sorry. But I mean...
But apart from the fact that she's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations,
yeah. And when she's talking about Putin, it looks like she's passing a kidney stone. I mean, her face is so contorted. And all the
Well, Putin
politicians...
makes life miserable for these people.
I know.
For these global... Which is why I like them. I like Russia because they make life miserable for the entanglement crowd.
Right.
The elitists
exactly.
at the CFR and the Trilateral Commission have been pushing this on us for years and keeping the American people stupid.
Right.
Because if the American people knew this was what they were up to, they would vote in opposition and be more prepared to vote for people who were more like-minded.
Right. But they're given a distorted view of reality.
They are, so they don't know how to vote.
Exactly.
That's why we're in this mess.
And people don't always vote foreign policy anyway. They usually vote bread and butter issues.
It's the economy, stupid.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the Constitution, the major role of the president is foreign policy.
That's the entire purpose.
Yeah, everything domestic is supposed to be Congress.
Yeah, and at the state level.
Yes, and at the state level, of course. Yes. I mean, I know everything is inverted. The pyramid is upside down.
It's literally upside down.
Yeah. And
I ran into somebody who was a fan of Kathleen Brown yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Can you believe that? I never thought I'd ever live long enough to run into a supporter.
We choose truth over facts.
I actually came in contact with somebody who said that he was a supporter of hers. Unbelievable. Organists.
Yeah, I mean, there's, the polls are never 100%. There's always a few people there that, no matter how outrageous the question, there's always a few people.
Well, there was a lot to the conversation that I didn't delve into because I thought it was going to engender friction, and I wasn't looking for that at the time. I got my purpose for the point of the conversation very, very quickly, and I decided I would steer around it. But there's actually someone out there, and I ran into them yesterday, who was a supporter of Kathleen Brown. I was absolutely shocked.
Unable to listen to the whole show? A recording of today's program will be available later today. Visit americamatters.us and click on the podcast link. Now, back to the show.
Sounds Jewish.
Yes, another segment of Talking Truth to Power on Jews in the News. And of course, we have to give the official ADL disclaimer. And we recognize that Israel is our closest ally in the Middle East, and it's the only democracy in the Middle East. And they don't throw gay people off of rooftops.
Not Lebanon?
Well, that's going to go away soon, so we can't count that. Yeah. And then in fact, each and every time, whenever we see Jewish people behaving badly, we must remember it's always our fault. Okay. So this is about a friend of the show, Sarah Silverman. We've talked about her before, and Seth Rogen.
Yep.
And their woke movie, not a movie, it's a series on HBO Max, I think, called Santa Claus Inc. Incorporated.
Does it run all year long, or just?
No, it's 8 weeks up until Christmas.
Just coming
I think.
right into Hanukkah and Christmas.
Yeah. So it's a terrible, terrible story that's been really panned. Nobody likes it. The premise is that there's a little elf girl, obviously a girl, played by Sarah, who believes, who is working her way up the Toyland, ladder, corporate ladder, to become the new Claus eventually, or something.
Okay.
Yeah. But then she finds out, to her horror, that Santa Claus is really a white male sexist.
Huh.
Yeah, and all the elves follow after him, and they get drunk, and they do drugs, and they do all these, So it's really a dysfunctional work atmosphere
I
for
see.
her.
While they're making toys, they're drinking. And
They're
carrying on.
messing around. Yeah.
I see.
So it's a dysfunctional workplace, So she has to file a suit or something. I didn't see even the trailer, because it's so bad that it got a 3 on the Rotten Tomatoes website.
Boy, that's serious.
Yes.
And talk about getting
Trans
fans.
girl is a girl.
Yes, Sarah.
There she is, right there.
Right. And it was completely ratioed on social media. You know what that means? There were maybe 10 likes and 10,000 dislikes on social media.
Well, YouTube has control over that. They were doing that for Biden.
Yeah, so they blacked out the dislikes and they took the comments down.
Yeah, right. Yep. That helps a little bit.
Yes.
You got control of that way of describing it.
And it's just full of woke jokes, like the little girl says to Santa Claus, more people believe in you than vaccines and the Holocaust. It was like a really, really bad episode of Saturday Night Live, which is going in the same direction a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
sounds like they had the same writers.
Right. It's unfortunate because it was claymation, and claymation can be really, good. When they have to take they take clay figures, and then they have to take a still picture every second or so, and then they run them all together to make the movie. But it just didn't. It's a nice technology, but a totally bad concept. And then, not only that, but then Seth Rogen, even though he had tweeted earlier in the week that people that live in big cities should just have to get used to high crime, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a great quote, wasn't it? Yeah. I mean, you're living in the city. What do you expect?
So,
did you hear the Fox Christmas tree burnt up?
Yeah, you told me about that. And we're wondering what the ethnicity there was.
Yeah, right. Oh, it's everything,
So now, Santa's being attacked in other venues too. Norway got woke. Your fatherland there, Lee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Norway
I heard that. Yeah, the image.
State TV had a gay Santa.
Yep.
That the household father or whatever finds him under the tree, I guess, and they have a kiss.
I saw the emblem that they used.
And there was also a gay interracial affair. A white Santa and a black Santa were having an affair too. So,
makes a more perfect world that way.
Right. And the original St. Nicholas, if you don't know, was a wealthy man who became a bishop in Greece, like in the 4th century, I think. And he was still wealthy even after he became a bishop, so he gave a lot of gifts to the poor. And sometimes the homeless people would sleep on the street and take their shoes and socks off, or their sandals and socks off, whatever. And he would put the gift in the socks of the homeless. And that's how you got the Christmas, hanging your sock up by the fireplace. And he's also a patron saint of hookers, but we don't have to go into that today.
Well, they had saints for everything, didn't they?
Yeah.
Quite literally.
Yeah, Christianity is
it's
saints
like
for everything.
30,000. That's what Paine described it as. They had saints for everything.
That's one reason why the Jews and the Muslims don't like Christianity, because if you have, they consider it infidels. If you have saints, if you pray to saints, you're practicing infidel. But at any rate, so.
I think the witnesses believe that as well.
The whole Jolly Santa Claus and the sleigh ride and all of that didn't come about until the 19th century, I think, in Scandinavia, Sweden. They invented that aspect of it. And then it came to America.
Lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Speaking of that, I've called Gary. Gary's going to join us for our year-end show.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we're going to have him on the show. Maybe we'll get a full throttle going into the new year.
And, we've mentioned it before, but if anybody has read the Talmud, you know that the Jews hate Christianity and Jesus and Mary and the whole nativity story. And they hate Christian culture. And like I said, I attended a show where Sarah Silverman was on, and she had quite a few things to say about Jesus. And
well, what did she have to say about you?
Well, she said, basically, she said,
I don't care. Good. I hope the Jews did kill Christ. I'd do it again. Do it again in a second.
I had to edit that a little bit. It was that out there.
Yeah. I think I edited it too. You had to re-edit it?
Yeah, I re-edited it.
I had to pull at least one curse word out of there. But so, when I hear conservatives, and I hear them over Thanksgiving talking about how America is a Judeo-Christian country. Nobody said that until after World War II, when the Jewish culture exploded in New York City with the great Jewish writers of the time. But and it doesn't make any sense, because Judaism and Christianity are definitely opposed to each other, and trying to blend them into one good to get along religion really does not make any sense. And so,
well, it's a political marriage.
Yes.
I don't have anything to do for you on that, and we'll circle back with you directly.
Because both parties, have been taken over by primarily by the Jewish interests, if I may be so bold to say. If Facebook doesn't take me down for it or something.
Take your microphone away?
Yeah, but like Pat Buchanan said, the American government is Zionist-occupied territory.
Mm-hmm.
And, here on Talking Truth to Power, we have always spoken well of the non-Zionist, Jewish people and the non-political Jewish people, the ordinary Jewish people. But it's organized international Jewry and all that encompasses. That's really a big problem. Like I've said on the show before, no Chinaman ever called me a goy. And so the Chinese don't
or anybody else.
They don't have that animosity that they actually. And again, you have to read their holy books or read commentaries on the holy books. But according to their religion, they are the chosen people. God loves everybody, but He chose us. That's what they like to say. But that means that they are the only human beings, the only object of creation. Yeah, not good.
Well, remember, there's still time to get your ammo bullet cases engraved with "Let's Go Brendan."
All right.
It makes a great stocking stuffer.
We didn't use our dog whistles.
No, we could have.
We will. It's still good to not use.